There is something I need to tell you before it's too late. If you are holding on to anger, if you are avoiding someone you once loved, if there is a conversation you keep postponing, please listen carefully because I waited too long. And the price I paid for that waiting is something I have carried for the rest of my life. I am 101 years old. At this age, people often ask me what the secret to a long life is. Some expect me to say good food. Some think I will talk about exercise. But the truth is much quieter than that. Longevity is not what teaches you the most. Regret does. And the regret I am about to share is the heaviest one I carry. It began many decades ago. Back then, I was a very different person. I was proud, strong minded, and if I'm being completely honest, a little stubborn. In those days, I believed something many young people believe. I believed that if someone hurt me first, they should be the one to apologize, not me. I thought that was dignity. I thought that was self respect. But life has a way of teaching you that pride and wisdom are not the same thing. The person this story is about was someone very important to me. His name was Daniel. Daniel wasn't just a friend. He was the kind of person who had been part of my life for so long that I could barely remember a time before him. We grew up in the same neighborhood, walked to school on the same dusty roads, shared lunches when one of us forgot to bring food. In those early years, we were inseparable, the kind of friendship that felt permanent, the kind you assume will last forever. And maybe it could have, but one ordinary afternoon changed everything. It started with something small. Small things often do. We were both young adults by then, trying to build our lives, trying to prove ourselves to the world. Daniel had an opportunity come his way, a job that he was very excited about, but there was a misunderstanding. He believed I had spoken badly about him to someone involved with that opportunity, and I believed he had accused me without giving me the chance to explain. Neither of us was completely right, and neither of us was completely wrong, but that didn't matter at the time. What mattered was how we reacted. The conversation that day quickly turned into an argument. Voices raised, accusations thrown back and forth, words spoken in anger that neither of us truly meant. I remember the last thing Daniel said before he walked away. He said, "Fine. If that's what you think of me, then maybe we were never really friends." Those words stung more than I can explain. Instead of stopping him, instead of saying something honest like, "Wait, this isn't worth losing our friendship," I did something else. I let him walk away. And in that moment, I told myself something very dangerous. I told myself if he cares, he'll come back and apologize. Days passed, then weeks, and neither of us reached out. My pride whispered the same message over and over again. You did nothing wrong. He should be the one to fix this. Meanwhile, life kept moving forward. Daniel eventually moved to another city for work. I heard about it through someone else. Part of me expected that before leaving, he would come by, knock on my door, clear the misunderstanding. But he never did, and I never went looking for him. Years passed, then more years. Sometimes I would hear small pieces of news about his life through mutual friends. He had gotten married, started a family, moved again. Each time I heard these things, a strange feeling would appear in my chest. Not anger, not exactly sadness either. Something quieter, something unfinished. But pride is a stubborn companion. It convinces you that time will solve things on its own. It tells you that if enough years pass, the problem will somehow disappear. What pride never tells you is that time does not repair silence. It only makes the distance permanent. There were many moments when I almost reached out. Once, when I heard he had returned to visit our hometown. Another time, when I found an old photograph of us as teenagers, standing side by side, arms over each other's shoulders, smiling like the world belonged to us. That photograph stayed in a drawer for years. Every time I saw it, I felt the same quiet thought: maybe I should call him. But then the ego would whisper again. After all this time, it would be awkward. What if he doesn't want to talk? What if he still believes the worst about you? So I waited and waited and waited until one day something happened that made me realize just how fragile time really is. But by then, it was already too late. There is a strange thing about time. When you are young, it feels endless. You believe there will always be another chance, another conversation, another moment to fix what went wrong. But the older you get, the more you understand something important. Time does not wait for our pride to soften, and sometimes the opportunity to repair a relationship disappears quietly before we even realize it. I remember the exact day everything changed for me. I was already in my late 40s by then. Life had moved forward in many ways. I had built a career. I had responsibilities, routines, obligations. From the outside, my life looked stable and complete. But every once in a while, a small memory of Daniel would appear. A place we used to visit, a song we once laughed about, an old street in our hometown. And every time that memory surfaced, the same thought would pass through my mind: maybe someday we will talk again. But someday is a dangerous word. One morning, I received a phone call from an old mutual friend. His voice sounded different, quieter than usual. After a few moments of small talk, he said something that made the room feel suddenly still. "Have you heard about Daniel?" I remember answering casually, "No, what about him?" There was a pause on the other end of the line, the kind of pause that makes your heart uneasy. Then he said the words I will never forget: "Daniel passed away last week." For a moment, I didn't fully understand what I had heard. The sentence felt unreal, like something spoken in a dream. I asked him to repeat it, and when he did, the meaning landed in my chest like a weight I was not prepared to carry. Daniel was gone. Just like that. A life that had once been so closely connected to mine had ended without a single word between us in decades. After the call ended, I sat quietly in my chair for a long time. Memories began to surface one after another. Childhood laughter, shared secrets, long conversations about our dreams, all the years of friendship that had once felt unbreakable. And then I remembered the last moment we had spoken, the argument, the anger, the silence that followed. And the realization that came next was something I can barely describe. For years, I had told myself a story. I had told myself that I was simply waiting for the right moment to reconnect. But in truth, I had been waiting for my pride to feel satisfied. And pride never feels satisfied. It only asks for more time, more justification, more distance, until suddenly there is no time left at all. A few weeks later, I gathered the courage to attend a small memorial gathering that some old friends organized for Daniel. I wasn't sure if I should go. Part of me felt like I didn't deserve to be there, but something inside me needed to say goodbye. When I arrived, I saw photographs from different stages of his life. Daniel smiling with his wife, Daniel holding a small child in his arms, Daniel standing proudly beside his grown children years later. He had lived an entire life, a full life, and I had not been part of any of it. Not because we stopped caring, but because two young people once chose pride over understanding. At one point during the gathering, Daniel's daughter approached me. She had heard my name mentioned by some of the older guests. She smiled kindly and said something that stayed with me forever. "My father used to talk about you sometimes." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I asked quietly, "What did he say?" She thought for a moment before answering. "He said you were his best friend when he was young." Those words broke something inside me because they revealed a truth I had never allowed myself to consider. While I was protecting my ego all those years, Daniel had still remembered our friendship. And perhaps he had been waiting too, waiting for the same thing I was waiting for: an apology. A conversation, a moment of courage, but neither of us took that step. That day, standing there among people who had shared his later life, I realized something painful. The greatest losses in life are not always caused by tragedy. Sometimes they are caused by silence, by the words we never say, by the apologies we delay, by the conversations we assume can wait until tomorrow. Now, at 101 years old, I have had many years to reflect on that mistake. And if there is one thing I wish people understood earlier in life, it is this: ego is one of the most expensive things a person can hold on to. It convinces you that being right is more important than being connected. It tells you that apologizing makes you weak. It whispers that time will fix everything on its own. But none of those things are true. Real strength is not found in winning arguments. Real strength is found in protecting the relationships that matter. Because the truth is, most arguments that destroy friendships are not really about the issue at all. They are about pride. Two people standing on opposite sides of a moment, each waiting for the other to move first, and sometimes neither of them does. If I could speak to my younger self now, I would tell him something very simple. I would say, "Go find him, explain what happened, tell him the friendship matters more than the argument," because the cost of that conversation would have been small, but the cost of avoiding it has lasted a lifetime. So, if you are listening to this today, I want you to ask yourself something honestly. Is there someone in your life that you stopped talking to because of pride? Someone you once cared about deeply? Someone you assume will always be there if you decide to reconnect later? If there is, please don't wait as long as I did. Make the call, send the message, start the conversation, even if it feels awkward, even if it feels uncomfortable. Because one day you may discover something the way I did, that the chance to repair a relationship does not stay available forever. I am 101 years old, and I have learned many lessons in this long life, but this one came at the highest price. No argument is worth losing someone who once mattered to you, and no amount of pride is worth a lifetime of wondering what might have been.